What happened to budgey? Well, in Amber Day there is a note that says, I sometimes wonder if the Medora will ever sail back someday with my friends on it. And then I remember that years have since passed. Maybe it's time for me to let go. But what does this refer to? You're gonna probably be wondering right now. This refers to the fact that when we first boarded her ship, budgey brought her infected friends with her because she didn't want to leave them since she wanted to save them. Also, budgey took us into the docks where we will meet Tigre, but we're not going to talk about him since we're going to focus more on budgey and his friends. But now going further into the video, budgey thanks us for our help in refueling her ship since she had arrived with the tank almost empty. She asked for our help in getting more fuel because her friends were already infected inside of the ship. Besides that, she couldn't do it alone because there were her friends inside, so she warned us to be very careful. But why did budgey arrive with her infected friends on her ship and none of them were left, as I mentioned before? Well, first of all, so to understand why she arrived with her already infected friends, let me explain it. Some crew members of the ship had become infected, and when they saw that the infection was contagious, they began to throw overboard those who were already infected. But to understand how every member got infected, let's talk about them really quick. Pepper and Archie became infected when they tried to handle Bobby, who was not infected until they also got scratched and became infected. Bobby became infected while trying to throw one of the infected people overboard. Bobby suffered a scratch. This transmitted the infection to him. And lastly, Kenneth protected Captain Budgey but ultimately got attacked. Before fully turning, he locked himself and the other infected crewmates in the lower levels of the ship to keep the captain safe. And that's how they ended up infected every crewmate of the ship. But why weren't they thrown into the sea like the rest of the ship's crew? Budgey wanted to keep them because she seemed to trust them, and it's possible she told them to promise she'd find a cure so she could save them from becoming infected. Furthermore, Kenneth had locked himself away with the other crewmates to protect budgey because he wants her to find the cure, which this is why she asked us for help in obtaining the petrol. My question right now is what has become of her and her friends, since we haven't heard from budgey since she left us in the docks. It's possible that she stayed at the docks to rest and find a way to stop the infected on the ship, as there were too many of them and she wouldn't be able to stop them alone. Even that I imagine that right now she won't be able to set sail because it might be that the oil she had wasn't enough and she needed more, or the infected have escaped from where they were sheltering and budgey can get back inside of the Medora. But if the infected are now free and are going around the Medora, how will she get back in if she can do it alone? Or what if it's because of the oil that it has run out and she can't set to sail again the Medora? My theory is that it might be that she had said, sometimes I think I'll be able to sail away on the Medora with my friends on board and reminisce about those years that have passed, and it's time to let it go. It's possible that the Medora can no longer set sail due to some damage, or that it's basically inaccessible because of the infected that were inside and escaped, as I mentioned before. What does she mean by wanting to remember those moments when she sailed with the Medora and her friends? This could be because budgey missed those moments when she could navigate the Medora without any issues since no one was infected back then. Besides, she can set to sail on the Medora now either because of the oil or because her friends are currently loose and wandering all over the ship, making it impossible to get in. Furthermore, it is true that now she is unable to access the Medora for the reasons I mentioned before, but she will have had to forget those moments she lived with them and begin a search for a cure to disinfect them. And when she remembered those moments when she sailed the Medora with her friends, it was already impossible for her because of the infection. But what will become of her right now? Where is she right now? Well, my theory is that she is somewhere in Ivalia looking for a place to stay, since she needs to find a cure for her friends. But my question is, will she be hiding somewhere or in any faction until they made more copies of the cure, or what? It's possible that she is currently in any shelter in Ivalia since she needs a place to stay, because she hasn't been able to get back in since leaving the Medora. Or possibly she's in any faction like the Valkyries, since that could be one of the places where she'd ask if she could join them to protect herself from the infection. And that's as far as we could know, because since it became completely difficult for her to return to the Medora and stay there in docks, she could have taken the same exit we took to meet Tigre again. Besides, I imagine that the Medora will stay there until someone comes to give Bobby, Kenneth, Archie and Pepper, the Medora crew mates of budgey, the cure. Also, there might be some losses, because if we look closely, Archie lost half of his face, and if they were to give him the cure, he would die instantly. But because of the loss of half of his face, since some substance that budgey and the crew might be carrying could fall on him, and the others will be uninfected safely, since none of them have any minor injuries that will cause any instant death. My conclusion is that budgey is alive and could be in any faction taking refuge from the infected and waiting until more copies of the cure are created, since she will be too desperate for more copies of the cure, so she could save her friends who will be waiting for her in the Medora. So we could say that budgey is alive right now, but she's somewhere in Ivalia taking refuge, and her friends are still in the Medora waiting for the cure in the docks. And that's how budgey ended up escaping from the Medora, because her friends who were already infected will be wandering around the ship, making it impossible for her to get back in. And that's it for this theory about budgey. Remember, if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any more theories. So, without further ado, thank you so much for watching this video and have an amazing and awesome day, guys. Bye!